everybody, this is Julia from abusheart.net. Today I've got a story time for you. So if you're interested in hearing how God saved me from a predator, just keep on watching. So we're gonna go back in time to the very first strip club I ever worked at. I don't know if you've ever heard the rumor that strip clubs are owned by the mob, but in my experience, every single strip club that I've ever worked at was actually owned by the mob. So I feel like it's kind of true. But at any rate, this club was owned by somebody that was involved in the mob. The owner went to jail for whatever reason. I don't remember what the reason was, but he let his son become the manager of the club. I'm not going to use his real name, but let's just say Rick was the manager of the club. Although Rick's dad had issues and was in jail, I feel like Rick actually was more of a problem than his dad was, because he had a problem with cocoa. You can figure out what that is symbolizing. Anyway, so he had a drug problem. When you run a business and you have drug issues, the two of those really don't mix so well. We're not dealing with professional employees. So strippers are not like typical professional employees. Like if you were to be working at any other job, you might not be able to get away with having a cocoa problem. But in this environment, it wasn't as severely looked at. I knew of this man because, people talk in the club, and I was friends with two of his former girlfriends. So I kind of heard stories of how he treated them and how abusive he was and the kind of lifestyle that he lived. And so I kind of was forewarned about this figure in the club, and I did my best to stay as far away from him as I could. You learn this in the strip club, that everybody has their type. I hate to boil down people according to looks type, but when you are in an environment like a strip club, it's basically like a store of women, and men can kind of pick their type. What it did for me is I just realized that everybody had their type. And if somebody said no to me and then yes to somebody else, you kind of could gauge whether you were their type or not, if that makes any sense at all. So I had a girlfriend that I would work with, and she was about my height. She was my body type, had my length of hair, and we would do very well together. And I knew that if these type of customers liked her, they would probably like me. This is the math that I'm talking about, deductive reasoning. I know Rick, and I know some of his girlfriends, and he has a type. He likes petite, brunettes, and he likes girls that have Asian in them. They're not 100% Asian, or maybe they are, but he likes girls that were petite Asian girls. I could tell that he was interested in me because of the way that he treated me, and it was really weird. Sometimes people will be extra super nice to you, and you know that they like you because of that. And then sometimes people would pretend like they can't see you or they're not noticing you, and they're very dismissive of you, and you can tell they like you through that. And because of the history that I've heard, that he's very abusive and he's psychologically twisted, the way that he was treating me was always like ignoring me, which was fine with me because I did not want to be noticed by him. But the more I ignored him and didn't really pay attention to him, it seemed like he wanted to pursue me even more. So he just was a little bit pushy after a while. I told you guys, I really did not drink the whole time that I danced. I never did drugs except for that one time when I was on that Playboy shoot, which you guys, if you know my testimony, you've heard the story. But I was not a partier. I was not a drinker. I did not sleep around. I had one boyfriend the whole time I was dancing. I just was not interested in any of the things that he was interested in. So when he would ask me out, I would always say no, because he would ask me out to the bars. We just got off of work. It's like 4:30 in the morning. I am not hanging out at a bar at 4:30 in the morning when I don't even drink. That's crazy. I want to go to bed. This man finally figured out a way to get me to see him outside of the club. He knew that I was a working model, that I was trying to build my portfolio, that actually legitimately went on auditions during the day for acting jobs and modeling jobs. And he was really good friends with this famous photographer. I'm not sure if I should say his name, but I'm going to throw up some pictures of his actual work. He is a world-renowned famous photographer that has shot every major model from like the 80s and 90s. He was throwing his name around, said that he was really good friends with him and that he could get me a photo shoot with him. So of course, this piques my interest because now we're talking about professional, something legitimate, something that I'm actually interested in. So I said, okay, that sounds like an opportunity. Yes, I will meet up with you and this photographer and we can talk about doing a photo shoot. Now, the weird part was that he wanted to be involved with this. Of course, that's not the weird part. That's actually a red flag, but I was new and naive, and I also was hopeful that, just trying to be flexible, that I didn't want to be a problem. So I thought, well, if this guy wants to hook it up and sit in on the meeting, it's not a big deal. We're going to be meeting in public. It's not like we're meeting in a back alley. So this is going to be safe for me. I'm okay with that. But the crazy part was I had to rely on this unreliable person for things to happen. Of course, he had this drug issue and sometimes he would set something up and then it wouldn't happen. But eventually it got worked out. We met up. The day before a photo shoot, I went to the photographer's home and he was a really sweet, nice guy. And he seemed a little troubled. He seemed like he had some drinking issues, like he was kind of drunk and it was the middle of the day. So I was not loving that. But again, when you deal with artists, sometimes creatives, they've got their issues and sometimes, it is what it is. And I just was being hopeful, like, well, maybe this will still be okay. It doesn't really look that great, but it's either maybe take a chance and get some great pictures or maybe take a chance and not get some great pictures. Either way, I got to take a chance. I'm not going to just pass up this opportunity. So after this initial meeting, Rick wants to go out and hang out and have coffee afterwards. And I'm just like, no, I need to go home and do my thing before this photo shoot. So I'm just going to say, no, I'll see you tomorrow. So I show up the day of the shoot at the photographer's home. He wants to shoot. He's got good lighting in his studio at home. Of course, Rick is there, which is so annoying and weird because he doesn't need to be there. He doesn't know anything about lighting. He doesn't know anything about angles. He's not offering any creative input as a stylist or any props at all. Like, it's just bad. He's just sitting there watching. Even me as a model, when I'm on a set and if someone's setting up something else, if they need help, sometimes I'll, hey, do you want me to bring that? Or what can I do? How can I help? And he was just awkwardly sitting there while this photographer was trying to do everything. And it was a little weird, I got to say. But anyway, he's sitting there. He sits through the whole shoot. And the shoot is not going well. Let's just say that it's not going well. The guy is drunk, and he can't focus. He's kind of spacing out. And so we're kind of like trying to keep him awake. And it was so much work. It was very stressful for me. And I'm thinking, I'm doing way too much work to even get a good picture out of this. Because as a model, your job is to relax and then come up with the angles and come up with the creative stuff. But if you're worried about like what the photographer has to do and if he's doing his job, you can't even do your job. So I knew the pictures probably weren't going to turn out the greatest, but again, I'm just being hopeful. The photo shoot ends, and of course Rick is trying to hang out again afterwards, and I am beat. I am tired. I'm actually crabby at this point. Like, I just want to go home. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that. I'll just see you at work. So I see him at work and he is acting weird. And I'm like, of course he's acting weird because he's just weird. Every time I see him, I ask him, like, so how did the pictures turn out? What's going on with the pictures? I had one Polaroid from that photo shoot and it was kind of fuzzy. And I saved it because he was such a famous photographer. I thought, if I don't ever get the pictures, at least I can say that this man shot me and I have like a memento from that day. And I am looking for it. Oh, if I find it, I'll insert it in this video. I keep asking Rick at work, hey, when are those pictures ready? Hey, if you develop those pictures. So back in the days when I was shooting, we would have these model portfolio books, big, thick, heavy books that you would bring into your agencies, and you would show them your glossy photos, and it cost a lot of money to process these photos, to choose the photos. It was a big deal. If I just got one shot, that would be a success. I keep asking him, he keeps saying, no, they're not ready, they're not ready, they're not ready. And finally, I'm just getting tired of it. So I stopped asking. And it's literally been maybe 2 or 3 months at this point since we shot the pictures. In my mind, I put it in the category of it's a lost cause. So one day, Rick comes up to me and says, guess what? The photos are ready and I can't wait for you to see them. They're so amazing. And I'm like, great, that's great. This was at the end of work. And he says, they're ready now. I can take you to go see them right now. And I said, no, I'll just wait. Just bring him to work next time. And he says to me, this is so crazy. He's like, no, these pictures are so amazing. They're so precious. They're very valuable. These are going to be worth a lot of money. I don't want to do anything with these pictures. I want to keep them in their safe space. So you come to the location where they're at. And I'm confused. I'm like, they're just pictures. I'm not a famous person. This doesn't even make any sense why you're saying that. But he's just being dramatic. And I'm like, there he goes, being his annoying self. I'll just appease him because I am so aggravated and this has been such a long process. I just want this to be over with. Okay, so what do we need to do? How do I need to see these amazing pictures? And so he says, well, follow me to my place after work. I am like, oh gosh, I do not want to do this. I don't want to follow him to his place. This is not feeling good in my body and in my spirit. But again, I just like soldier on. I'm going to make this good. This is going to turn out great. And I'm just pepping myself up as I am following him to his house. So he's taking me through all these back alleys of Chicago. And when you go the back alley route, you really can't see where your streets are. It makes it more confusing. So the way Chicago is set up, it's set up on a grid, but the back alleys make it a little confusing to know where you are on the grid. It's 4:30, almost 5 o'clock in the morning. And so he pulls up to the back section of his house and he kind of motions to me like, hey, hold on, I'll be right back out. So I park my car and I'm waiting. And deep down, I'm relieved that he's not having me go in the house because that part was the scary part for me. And I'm waiting nervously in my car, just wanting this to be over with. And I'm looking at the black sky and it's that point in the night where it's like so dark that you know daybreak is coming at any moment. I just feel like time is standing still. It's so quiet. My anxiety is starting to build because he's not showing up. He's been gone for some time now. And I hear Ariel. So that was my first dancing name when I worked. It was faint, but it was loud enough for me to hear it. And I see his lurch-like figure kind of waving me over in the dark. So I hesitate. My heart is like racing. My mind races even more, like I thought he was going to come out here and now he is calling me into his house. This is not good. I'm just wondering, should I leave? What should I do? But I'm so close to finally seeing these pictures that I've waited like months now for. I'm also thinking, like, wouldn't it be weird if I just run off? Like, I know this guy. I don't know what to do at this point. But against every warning sign that was going off in my body, every feeling that I was getting in my gut, I open the door and get out. I can remember the dewy grass kind of squeaking underneath my gym shoes. And I hear, come on. He whispers like loud enough for me to hear, but not loud enough where his neighbors can hear it. And he moves towards the basement of the building. If any of you have ever seen Chicago, there are these it's like 3 flat apartments where there's like stairs kind of going up from the outside. There is like a basement section where the laundry is usually. So he kind of motions for me to go to the basement. So I can't really see him. He pulls this string that had come from the ceiling and there was like a single light bulb hanging from the ceiling. And he pulls that string and now it's kind of swinging and I see him standing there. And it's literally like a horror movie. And I'm like, oh my gosh, he's got my portfolio or whatever it is that he prepared for me spread out on a wooden like folding table for laundry. And he says to me, come down, check out your work. He's smiling. The look on his face is just stirring the acid in my stomach. He's like so excited. I come towards him and I'm truly not wanting to make a scene. I feel like if I make a scene, then I'm going to make something big out of nothing. I'm really hoping that the terror that I'm feeling inside is not showing on my face. He basically moves to the side, out of the way, so that I can stand directly in front of the book. It's so weird because there was a book of pictures of me, but I literally cannot even remember what one of those pictures looked like, because he then slid behind my body, and now he's looking at the pictures like right from here, and I could feel his breath on my neck. It was so close. And now I can't even concentrate on the pictures because I feel so scared. I hear an audible voice that says, "Run." And it's like screaming in my ear. Not the ear that he's in, it's in the other ear. And it's run. The craziest part for me was that I'm a freezer. I always worry about what other people think, and I don't want to make anyone uncomfortable. But I literally took one step out. I just bolted straight up the stairs. I remember my feet slipping in the wet grass. I fumbled to find my keys in my purse, and I can hear him from behind saying, "Come back, come back." And I don't even look back. I don't know where I am. I don't know how I'm gonna get home, but I just start driving. The sky was beginning to break, and sun was beginning to peek through, and it was almost like hope was on the horizon. The darkness had broken, and now I was going towards the light. And I remember my skin was just crawling from not getting any sleep, and this adrenaline that was just running through my body, this fear that I was feeling. Without a shadow of a doubt, I know that was God speaking to or through my intuition, telling me to run. Because I was so overwhelmed in that moment, I couldn't even think of what to do next. And it was the simple words "run" that got me focused on just getting out of there. Not focused on making him uncomfortable or it's gonna be weird at work. None of that. I was just focused on, okay, the plan is to run. The plan is to run. I will run. I believe that the Lord spared me from a violent encounter that night because I know the girls that he was in relationship with and the horrible things that he had done to them. They had shared some of the things, and these girls showed up with bruises on their face and deep scars on their spirit, a lot of issues. He was a violent person. I believe that any man who inflicts violence upon a woman, and we know what that means, is a person who feels so disempowered in their life that they have to powerfully come against someone who's defenseless. You know, I hesitated to even share this story because it is dark, it is true, it is not positive, and the reality is that industry is so toxic on so many levels. It endangers women, it endangers mental health, it endangers your body. It puts you in circumstances that a normal person wouldn't have to deal with. But yet, that's part of the everyday for the life of a stripper. She always has to watch her back. She always has to have mace on her and has to be aware that people are out to get her. I do want to share, like, one of the girls that I worked with had a guy that followed her home. She got so scared because it was one of her regular customers. She called the police. They had a reason to search his car. I don't know if he had a warrant or what, but they found a body bag, tape. They found a kill kit in his trunk. And I never saw that girl or heard about what happened to her since. Like, she reported to the police, and she had friends that knew her and were kind of sharing the story around the club, but nobody ever saw her again. She quit dancing. She went and did something else. She moved to another state, and we never heard from her again. And thank goodness for that she was okay and she survived. And my experience, I have had a few close calls with people that had ill intention towards me. And I'm not sharing this to inflict fear, but I think that it's important to share the reality of how deadly and dangerous this industry is. So a lot of times you'll see on YouTube, people glamorize this lifestyle. And there is glamour because we're talking about beautiful makeup and jewelry and costumes and sexiness everywhere. But the reality is really not that glamorous at all. Behind the scenes, it's just not. And I wish people would be more real with telling women just how dangerous it really is. I don't believe it's women's empowerment. I think it actually dehumanizes women. I think it degrades men. I think it degrades the idea of what marriage and a healthy relationship looks like. I think it scars the mind and the heart, selling everyone short who walks into the strip club. Whether you're a manager, whether you're a dancer or a customer, whoever's going in the door, they're getting hurt on some level, in the pocketbook, in their marriage, in their future relationships, in their ideology about the opposite sex, their ideology about the same sex. It just affects people on so many levels. This is my short little story time of one story that I felt led to share about how God protected me from a predator in a strip club. But I asked God, like, why was I protected? And he clearly told me, because you had people praying for you. Your mom was praying for you, and she had her friends praying for you, and your mom never gave up praying for you. That really sat with me, because now one of my gifts, and my friends who know me personally know this, is that I have a mandate on my life to pray for people. And because I know the power of prayer has saved my life. And so I am now partnering with the Lord to do the same for other people. So if you feel like you know someone that's in an industry like this, or they're putting themselves in really dangerous circumstances, I just want to encourage you as a Christian, as a believer, that you can take all that fear and all that love that you have for that person, and you can push it up to the Lord in prayer. And he can do something with your fear and your love and your concern, that you can give all those things to God, and he will use it for his glory. And don't give up on the people that look hopeless. Like, I didn't just dance for a year or 2 years. I danced for over a decade. My mom prayed for me for over a decade. For 12 years, I was saturated in an industry that put my health and my life at risk every single night. And I'm alive today because somebody was praying me through it. And so I just want to encourage you that if you have those people in your lives that are endangering themselves, you can do something about it. Your prayers are doing something. Of course, we're going to end with a verse. The effectual, fervent prayer of a righteous man availeth much. James 5:16. So thanks for stopping by to hear the story time, and I hope to hear from you soon.